My name is Bonnie Marquette, and I am the Human Resources Manager at American Crane and Equipment Corporation. Unfortunately, our President and COO, Karen Norheim, could not be here with us today. I have the pleasure of introducing our next set of speakers to share with us how to future-proof your staff via innovation pathways to cross the technology chasm in workforce development. Today, we will learn about workforce development techniques for the innovation economy through AI and extended reality. I'd like to welcome Lisa Sibilia and DP Prakash, I hope I said that right, co-CEOs of Utopian to the stage. The vision of Utopian is to accelerate humanity to full potential and change the future of work and education. Their mission to do this is through innovation as a service, creating pathways for frictionless learning to innovate and impact the world, and create an innovation platform for digital transformation in enterprises and education. Welcome, Lisa and DP.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah. Good morning. Utopian is a human-centered AI XR innovations company. XR is extended reality. Very nice. Sorry?
Take your mouse.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So the identity is revealed. So, what exactly are we about? Utopian is most passionate about you. That's why the company is called Utopian. And we talked about crossing the chasm. We're very happy to be here to share with you our experiences in that space. And hopefully, after the talk, if each of you is able to carry away at least one idea that will make a business outcome for you immediately, then our job today is done. So we are here to share our experiences in the... Here? Oh, this one, okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Bonnie. So we are above all, I must say that we are a proud partner, innovation partner of ASECO, working with Karen Norheim, with Michelle and the team at ASECO, and there's a lot of learning there. You'll see why, among all the global clients that we work with, both in enterprise and in education, why we find ASECO right here to be a poster child of digital transformation, how digital engineering, the technologies are being used. So hopefully you'll find some interesting takeaways from today. I am DP Prakash, co-CEO. I have about 3 decades in manufacturing experiences. I love manufacturing, the hum of manufacturing, the energy of manufacturing that we find here. We are in love with that. And so very, very happy and honored to be here. 3 decades at IBM and subsequently about 6 years at Global Foundries, working on as a global innovation leader previously, working with the CEO across 10 factories around the world. So a lot of experiences learned in the semiconductor and nanotechnology space, applying to other industries and helping. That's what Utopian is about. Now over to Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Sibilia, co-CEO of Utopian. I'm going to start with a story. Early on in my career, at age 18 years old, I was sitting at a bench at Penn State University, deciding, what do I want to be when I grow up? I was holding a sketchbook in my hand, and a stranger approached. She had a Disney name tag on, and a question she asked truly terrified me. She said, "May I see your sketchbook?" And I told her that I was in the process of reverse engineering my life to pursue the greatest challenge I could imagine, and that was art. And she said, "Can I see?" And I showed her that sketchbook, and it was a pivot point in my life. I am a former Disney cast member, and I did fly down to Disney and go to one of the top art schools in the country without the ability to draw. I learned adaptive resilience. I learned how to draw within seconds, and have been able to successfully apply it to industry and utilize creative intelligence in incredible ways. I had no idea at the time when I worked for Disney that my great uncle was one of the original Disney Imagineers designing the monorail and Spaceship Earth. I also had no idea growing up that my great-grandfather actually worked directly with Thomas Edison. And it's amazing how when you see the impossible happen as a child, it impacts you. So as we look in how this connects across all of us here today, our goal is to really change lives around the world together. So thank you.
Lisa certainly has changed my life. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So let's get started here. What is Industry 4.0? Every one of us have heard about this one, the convergence of physical, digital, and biological. I was really surprised how well this concept is now percolated up, down, and sideways. I was having a conversation with the Singapore Deputy Prime Minister. We advise a lot of different leaders around the world. And very few people can actually say, what is Industry 4.0? Instantly he said, yes, physical, digital, and biological convergence. So what is that? So if you look at any of our firms, right, we have a physical infrastructure out there. And we learned from the pandemic, we had to work without actually going inside. That concept is what Industry 4.0 was about even before the pandemic struck. Ability to actually go into a virtual factory. That means there's going to be this, you hear about this word metaverse. So the idea of being able to go into that mirror world without having to go physically, and that concept was being pioneered. And with, for example, in healthcare, telemedicine, these things are now becoming a reality and accelerating really rapidly. In her own alma mater, Stanford, 30,000 people were using telemedicine. After pandemic struck, within months, 300,000 people. So that's what's an example of physical and digital. What's biological convergence? Well, that's coming, that's later. And some would say it's a little scary, but the idea of you don't have to type. Your thoughts are actually being read, and you can actually do the same job by thinking about it. That'll come later, but for now, look at what two important people in the world have actually said. One is John Chambers, one of our mentors, former CEO of Cisco. Half the Fortune 500 firms may not exist by the end of the decade. Why? That is because of the technologies that are actually coming at change. What did the great Professor Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School, what did he say? Ranked #1 business mind of Harvard. He said half the universities in the US will not exist by before the end of the decade. Why? On to the next slide. It's because of this technology called digital engineering. Lisa, you want to talk about it?
Absolutely, and I think this slide really articulates the trends that are happening now and why it's critically important to invest in innovation. And oftentimes we hear, but innovation's expensive. It's going to take time, it's going to take resources, and we, quite frankly, don't know how to do it. Where do we begin? How do we know that the decisions we are making are going to matter? How are we going to know ahead of time that they're not going to fail? And some of the things that I learned, perhaps through reverse engineering life, when I increased the probability of career failure by at least 80% intentionally, is that you have to be bold. And some of the trends we're seeing with 5G, with artificial intelligence, with Industry 4.0, with so many different technologies, making the decision to start is critical. If you fail to make that decision, you're going to be left behind. And one of the things we strive to do is develop the internal innovation muscle of the organizations and clients that we work with.
Let me underscore one more point here, right? Look at the rate at which this is happening. All these technologies, AI, ML, AR, VR, cybersecurity, everybody now knows about ransomware. Sooner or later, everybody's going to get hacked. So, importance to be in zero trust mode. These kinds of technologies, combinations, is what's broadly called digital engineering. Notice the projection in just 2 years is $1 trillion spending happening. So this is where we need to get in on the action. How we're going to do that is what we're going to talk about.
Well, I was going to answer that, I thought, together, DP, but let's go.
All right, so this is the ASICO story, right? And it's a poster child of how a firm recognizes this, and Karen Norheim is not here, but she's a great collaborator and a great leader that we greatly admire, and we wanted to share some of the collective learning here of what we could do together in a very, very short time. So the rest of this presentation is really about practical examples, not theory, right? Those technologies, how they're being applied to actually advance with real business outcomes. It begins with ideas. It begins with the senior generation leaders. listening to them. They have 30 years, and they have actually seen what works intuitively. Partnerships, and that's what Lisa and I, people like us bring. The ideas have to come from outside to help the firm fill in the gaps, especially the blind spots, and engaging with the next gen. That's the story.
This is an example of an innovation lab. We've created 19 around the world. And you might ask, what is an innovation lab and how could this add value to my organization? At first, it's a safe place where your organization can go to bring new ideas to life. We had the honor, and we still do have the honor, of working with this incredible organization at American Crane and Equipment Corporation, and one of the most exciting moments recently was seeing the multi-generational leaders within the organization come together. They were smiling, they were asking questions, and they were saying words like, this is going to save me time so I could spend more time innovating. And that's incredible. One thing, as we're reflecting on what an innovation lab could look like within your organization, one thing I encourage is the opportunity to celebrate failure. And a lot of times when you hear that, you might say, that's really controversial. We're going to lose money if we fail. But the way we handle failure is really important, because if we hold back bold ideas, there's something missing. And that's something we've learned. We've seen just the inspiration happen through the internal team. And it's just been so refreshing seeing stakeholders who've been there 40 plus years inspiring the next generation and vice versa.
So we've all been familiar with the computers, and I've been in this semiconductor industry for 30 years. 70 years is the total. The industry's been around. A very short time, you can see how chips have actually changed every aspect of our life. It's one of the most amazing inventions of our time. 1947, when the first transistor was invented at the Bell Lab, to now, it's well over some 200 million to 400 million times the improvement in productivity. What was the size of a chip? The first transistor was this big. Now you have a tiny little chip that has 50 billion of those devices. So it's an incredible story. But all of that it went into computers and mainframes and things like that. What about the people who are on the front lines, working and moving? They never really got their due. This is enter augmented reality. And you know why Tim Cook at Apple says that he loves AR, what it holds as a potential, because of what kind of transformation. Next platform for computing is going to be augmented reality, is what he would say. AR, VR are here to stay. And here's an example of what you can use today. Within 2 hours, you're going to be creating value and capturing value, and it'll drive business outcomes. So how does it work? Here's an example of an expert who actually is able to wear a headset, and it's a 2D headset. You all would have heard about the Google Glass that came out in 2012. It was a pioneering effort, but it was focused on consumers, not on the enterprise. Enterprise is where the action really is. And now, this expert lady, she's able to wear the headset on the move. She's communicating with her teams. Wherever people are sitting from around the world are now able to follow exactly what she does. The workflow, digital workflow, this is big. People are shifting away from pen and paper in every aspect, digitizing it, and those workflows are now being shared as she does it with people around the world. Just imagine that. Imagine the customers, imagine your suppliers, everybody participating on the move. That is the excitement of AR. That's assisted reality in this case, but augmented reality will show you. We can actually do even more with 3D, and, but we have this principle at Utopian that you approach every problem, right? The solution for it should be at the lowest level of technology. Having spent 3 decades in technology, I would say technology is a tail. The main thing is a business. Look for the business outcome. But AR, this particular one, safety, productivity, we talked about, the panel was wonderful. Talked about all those things. This one impacts immediately, and we can actually even point to anybody who wants to talk to us. We'll be here for this day. Come talk to us. We'll tell you how you can do this right away. Now, that was 2D, right? Enter 3D. We live in a very exciting time. Look at this. This is a $20 million tool. Historically, and if you want to touch a tool like this, you have to go through selection process, and you have to hire, you have to go through all those steps to come in, and then you start learning. That's all gone. Now, any tool, it can be a plane, it can be a helicopter, it can be like any tool, You can now train people way in advance. There's no reason why anybody interested cannot learn about it. And imagine that workforce getting trained way before the need even arises. That is the promise of HoloLens, right? So that's the 3D technology there. And that's AR, taking a complex a tool and then bringing it alive. Here, airport, your living room, wherever, and actually learning. That's a fantastic change that's actually happening. Now, if you want to go into a completely synthetic environment, let's say that's a manufacturing facility. We all will can learn about it. And you want to train somebody. That can actually be differentiated in different colors, and you can go into the virtual reality and walk around. And I know a little bit about walking around it because we actually, as part of a team that actually led the creation of VR chips. And so the excitement of being able to walk inside buildings, walking inside a tool, taking the tool apart in 3D, and then walking even inside a chip, all these things are now happening. So this is something to be taken very seriously. For those of you who are using AR and VR already, more power to you, go, right? For people who are on the sitting and watching, the train is leaving the station. You need to catch it now.
So functional DP and visually stunning.
That's right.
So this, before I share a little bit about this, I don't even think I told DP this, but I'm simultaneously doing a presentation in virtual reality at Stanford University right now. And it's pretty amazing when a lot of times we're stretched and how could we be in multiple places at the same time? Well, this is a slice of what we've done at ASECO, creating a digital twin of their back office space. And if you imagine building information models, BIM, what if you could create something, see what it looks like, and then invite your team there before you bring it to life? That's a multiplayer virtual reality opportunity. And it's incredible because you could make those design review decisions. Is this where we want this to be? When I went and saw it for the first time, my jaw dropped and I could not stop smiling. You can't do certain things in reality that you can do in VR. And I remember when Jeff Everly, who's standing next to me, he's much taller than I am, when he went into virtual reality for the first time, he was walking through some of the walls. And you can't do that in real life, but it was truly significant how you could get a sense of what that experience could be in multiple ways. This goes back a slice to Disney. We have established lifelong partners with former Disney founders and former Disney Imagineers. And one of the things beyond the structural design are the people. And what if we could create avatars that could teach us something when we can't necessarily be there? This is a really exciting opportunity. This specific avatar is one of my mentors who was Disney Carousel of Progress days, and we're bringing him to life to teach generations using advanced conversational AI and definitely a human touch. One other example of virtual reality, this is an example of a crash lab that we created in virtual reality for USC. And if you look at USC, this is a space that they're able to study crashes and understand what went wrong. It's almost like forensic analytics. And we had the opportunity and honor to go there and really look and learn and understand the constraints. You could only have about 20 people in that room. And what if you could invite the world to learn faster or learn in a different way? So we feel the highest value is a combination of the physical as well as the digital, so that if you do have constraints like we've experienced with pandemic, you still have the hands-on learning as well as the opportunity to accelerate research and learning.
So take a look at how Karen Norheim is leading the way in integrating these technologies and taking it to the next level.
At the heart of Grit Matters is our vision, to be the overhead lifting company most respected for its people and products. At American Crane, we've been a leading manufacturer of overhead cranes and hoists for over 45 years. And as part of that journey, we really have evolved to be the expert in our industry. My name is Karen Norheim. I am President and COO of American Crane and Equipment Corporation. Something that's really cool about this space right now and why I think it's so exciting, right? So at the top there, we have an overhead bridge crane. And then the model here in the center is what we call a hoist. We build up to 310 tons. Okay, so you can imagine the scale and size of that piece of equipment. You know, if I want to go and visit someone, or you here today, this is an incredible experience because I can show you my products where I can't just put those cranes and hoists in my pocket and go to a meeting, right? Now I basically can put them in my virtual pocket.
So the idea of location-based anything, recognition now is it's just one channel. You can actually go into a space, all of us right now can be in a space, walking around and having an experience that is unbelievable, right? And so that's what this is about. That is a campus that can be created for any of the businesses that you're in, and we all can be in avatars. Those avatars, they're going to start increasingly looking like us, right?
Oh, sorry. Just to make sure you're awake. Okay. There we go.
So the opportunity comes in, bits and the big ones, small ones. The opportunity comes in many forms, and the idea of innovation, right? If you look at it, many times it's driven by hippos. What's hippo? Highly paid officers decide what needs to be done. But what about all the other people? What happens when we get every brain in the game? One of my teachers, my gurus, happens to be Jack Welch, and before he passed away, this is one of the things that he actually taught. And the idea is, if you get every brain in the game, right? It doesn't matter, right, what position they are in. They may have an idea. And the organization works together as one. It's a giant brain working together, and none of us is as strong as all of us. So this is an example, and we wanted to show you how quickly we can actually move, right? When I say we, I mean we as a community collectively can move with the technologies that exist today. A week ago, last Monday, right, this use case was identified. We did this for you. We said, okay, let's take a part of the SECO that's on the path to digital transformation, right? We talked about digital engineering, digital transformation, embracing it. Serve the idea of shipping and receiving. We just went and worked with the next gen. We do notice that the next gen, and Lisa mentioned this many times, is that next gen is very open to ideas. They don't need to look at manuals or rule books and so on. They just play with it, right? So the next gen here happens to be Bobby, and Bobby says, look, this is what I see happening. And people come and they look at the shipping and receiving, and most of the time they're fine, but there are times parts are being missed. Why? Because we have this binder where we have to sign, and some parts can be mistaken. Somebody comes and takes parts meant for somebody else and goes on, and this causes workforce a little bit of friction from time to time, right? But this is not unique to the secret. It's happening everywhere. It's a common problem. So we said, okay, how do these technologies work? First, we're going to digitize the entire process, start to finish. Right? And that we can do rapidly. And once you digitize it, with every step documented, you know who's doing what part is coming where. That digital thread is your digital trade. That's the breadcrumbs. Once you shift away from manual and paper type and you go into digitize, and it's very fast, you can do that. Then what happens is, coupled with videos that can be kept with any activity that happens, you can go into a dashboard that further visualizes. So analytics is complete. Documenting is complete, everything is thorough, you know exactly who took what part when, and therefore, this means faster traceability, outcomes. The technology is just like the tail, it is the outcome that really matters. So faster traceability, 1 week to go from here is a problem, and here is a solution, here is how we can implement it, right?
And speaking about outcomes, there's an opportunity to shift through hundreds of images, and that takes time. What if there was an opportunity to make this more efficient? So we've been able to utilize 360 scans that make measurements with 99+% accuracy to make decisions faster.
So towards the end, yeah. So the idea is this, right? If you have an engineering team and they have to go make a measurement, they have a choice to go physically to go and make the measurement. Okay, I need to make a bolt to go from here to here. Let me go make a measurement. And that is location-based. But remember what we said? Location-based is just an option. Now, digitally, what can you do? So if you can go into the, go ahead.
Yeah,
If you
I
can go
think you could speak about it, but
Yeah.
let's show them to you.
Okay, so the idea of like having the entire, in this case, a massive crane can now be scanned, right? And that around the crane, you can walk around in 360 with great precision. And if you, let's say you want to have a bolt go from one place to the other, and you go in there, you see, you can make all sorts of decisions so much more rapidly. If something changed, and the data actually captures it, you're able to look at it like, and make much faster decisions than before. Now, this is a massive, 300-ton crane, 10-ton crane, but this could be your campus. You can walk around. In real estate, this is becoming common. So the idea of using PowerPoints, which is text, pictures, audio, video, that is done. That's old, right? What needs to happen now? 360. After 360 comes AR. After AR comes VR. After VR comes AI tutors. After that comes the human mentor. So all the work is going to get shifted down. The center of gravity drops. It is a democracy for innovation. So bringing it all together, So bringing it all together, here is a complex use case, right? What happens when those digital engineering technologies you talked about, they start working in combination? I have to tell you the story. So now my 9-year-old son, he learns chess from Gary Kasparov. Now how does he do that? Well, there's a master class. Anybody can actually learn. And within like 3 weeks of learning chess, I can't beat my son. Gary Kasparov taught me it's not just about one little pawn working, but if a pawn works with a rook, with a queen, these three in combination can have a devastating effect, and I can't beat my son. This is how fast he's like onboarding. Look what's happening here, right? IoT is Internet of Things, right? Everything is going to start talking to everything else. We in fact work with a collaborator, Ray Ozzie. He took over from Bill Gates, and he actually is a great collaborator for us. And his vision is everything should talk to the internet easily. 2 lines of JSON code, right? So IoT is happening. AI has to link to IoT. Anything with data, we need AI. Augmented reality makes it easier to visualize. That's a deadly combo, right? So here, looking at like cranes, we attach sensors. They already have sensors, data collection. Take edge computer, have machine learning, shift to the edge, make decisions much faster, better. Put it on a secure cloud for long-term trends, health and behavior analytics. Why is one shift using it more compared to the other? Things like that. Anomaly prediction, thinking ahead of the problem, right? And remote asset tracking and being able to assess what the problem is and being able to have rapid response. Why? At the end of the day, technology is just the tail. It is really the zero downtime. A crane going down can cost $1 million for some clients. But if we can drive it to zero downtime by using this combination, that's where the victory is.
Yeah, being able to predict failure before it happens. So briefly, we talked about surveys. That they're very traditional, and often you don't get the feedback that you need. What if you were able to leverage the entire innovation ecosystem of not only your internal stakeholders, but your clients and the world? Imagine how this could future-proof your organization, thinking about what are the ideas that people are generating, what are the challenges that we're seeing, how can we take them to idea, to implementation, to drive revenue. And it's amazing. Working with Disney, I have a very potentially biased view of this. We never held back with ideas, the most ridiculous ones, and we also never threw out an idea, because you imagine this idea might not work right now in this moment, but we don't know what the future may be. So there's so much potential in terms of utilizing this to connect and build the community around the voices of the stakeholders.
So we wrap this up with the final slide here. So before we go to the final takeaways, I just want to go back to what Bonnie said. Beautifully said, right? Some things in business are timeless. They're not going to change. 100 years ago, what did Disney have as #1 metric of success for Disney? Safety. Exactly as she said. That safety has only become even more important than ever before. It will always be #1. The second thing was operational maintenance and excellence in operations. Never going to change, right? It's how we do it that's going to change, but the principle of business is not going to change. Then the competitive advantage. So from the past, what we can learn here is that business principles don't change. It is the environment that's changing. Second thing, and our utopian team wanted to convey this, so we have to say this to you. To thrive, we need to start asking, what do we need? It is not the shiny thing. It is not the technology. We're not going to put the technology first. It is what do you need in your firm, in your environment that matters. Then from there, to be able to create some specific steps we can actually take and drive with specific use cases. So let's have the takeaways, Lisa. So first is invest in innovation labs. You saw that very clearly. Every firm must have an innovation space where people can come and ideas can safely be tried, and if they fail, they're accepted as part of progress. Lisa?
I think beyond that, partner with extraordinary people. Our clients are often saying, you know, we have trust and we have love, we'll figure it out. And I think for me, love is the highest level of leadership. And it's incredible when you're surrounded by the best, you make each other better.
Supporting the workforce to innovate, meaning like, you know, the support for innovation has to come from the top. Without the top, it's very, very hard for mid-level and below. In the case of ASICO, you see a shining example, and in fact, we would encourage anybody to actually go stop by. Michelle is here, you know, to stop by at ASICO and see the innovation lab in action. It's a poster child on how digital transformation can be embraced. That is a wonderful example.
And the last point is, I think, important. If you saw or think about virtual reality, if you put a VR headset on the table and you're sitting next to a child, who's going to pick it up first? Likely the child's going to race you and not necessarily look at the manual ahead of time. They're going to figure out a solution. So talk about crossing the chasm. We have hurdles. We know that. And it's just an opportunity to walk into the unknown with confidence.
So we take away one last thing. So all this means growth, right? Jack Welch's passing thoughts. Most big company problems, or even medium-sized or small company problems, go away when there's growth. So all of this should lead to possibilities, creating new possibilities, new way of doing things, and growing. This is about you growing. Thank you.
Thank you.